Hey everyone, my name's Ben Younson. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, but I've been living in the United States since 2011, most of that time in New York City. When I was very young, my parents always had great music playing in the house. I can recall seeing a number of great guitarists who regularly played on variety shows on Australian TV at the time, and that certainly caused me to be intrigued by the guitar. Aside from hearing great music at home, I think I initially wanted to play music because my older brother actually excelled at piano from a really young age, so I wanted to try and do that as well. I tried piano, and then I tried violin, and neither of those seemed to be quite the right fit for me. So somewhere in there, I heard George Benson playing guitar for the first time via my parents' record collection. And that was the first moment that I can recall really being interested in trying to play the guitar. As it turned out, my dad had an old nylon string acoustic lying around from some years before, and it was at that point when I picked up that guitar at age 10 that I first attempted to play. I first began really trying to play the guitar the same way most young guitarists do. I learned a series of open chords and tried to string them together into something that sounded like a song, and I continued to do that for the first year that I played guitar. Where my story might be a little bit different is that I still had that big guitar sound of George Benson in the back of my head, and I wanted to work out how to move beyond open chords and take my playing to the next level. So by this point I'd gotten my first electric guitar, and the first song that I really learned in depth, or taught myself and tried to learn in depth, was actually Breezin' by George Benson, written of course by the great Bobby Womack. I worked out the melody and the chords by ear, and I could do a pretty decent impersonation, I suppose, though I didn't really know the technical names of the chords or anything like that. I tried my best. But from there on, I started trying to learn guitar solos off Steely Dan albums, and that was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. And not long after that, I heard Bright Size Life by Pat Metheny for the first time, and that really changed everything for me again. Probably the second piece of music I ever learned in depth was Bright Size Life. And I was 12 years old at this point. I did my best trying to decipher all of this amazing music, the chords, the harmony, the melodies, everything. But it was at this exact moment in my life that I knew what path I wanted to take. The first time I actually played guitar in front of people would have been at a school assembly when I was about 12 years old. I remember being asked to play something that people might recognize, so at the time I sort of knew how to play Blackbird by the Beatles, so that seemed like a good choice. So I was a bit nervous, but I got through it just fine. After that, a couple of years passed and I really worked on my playing. And by the time I was 15, I auditioned for a performing arts high school in Melbourne, Australia, and I got in. Now at that school I met a lot of young musicians who were actually working professionally already, and this led to me at that time getting my first gigs in local jazz clubs, which was a big deal to me and really helped my playing. The following year, when I was about 16, I do remember going into the big music store on Bourke Street in Melbourne at the time, and I was very lucky to get my first serious electric guitar, which happened to be an Ibanez semi-acoustic. It was a guitar that enabled me to handle any musical style, and that's sort of become a big part of the way I play, something that encompasses a lot of musical styles. A couple of years later, when I was 18, I had a guitar teaching job at a local music shop. Saved up some money, and I remember getting this beautiful Ibanez AS50, which I have right here, from the early 80s. And this guitar has been a mainstay of my guitar collection. I've played it for many, many years now, and it was actually the guitar that I brought with me when I first came to the US way back in 2011. So I love it. Best advice I could give would be to remember that as soon as you pick up the guitar, you have your own sound, whether you realize it or not. Now it does take a lot of focus, dedication, and introspection to develop your own individual style on the guitar. And on that journey, it really is essential to listen to and digest the approaches of other great guitarists as well. However, make sure that you're not afraid to take some creative chances of your own, because after all, your touch on the instrument is yours as soon as you play a note. Why not make the most of that and try to approach the guitar with as much of an individual and creative approach as possible? My name's Ben Unson. You'll see me playing the Ibanez AM and the AZ series guitars. I'll see you next time.